Voices again. This is Mira, I'm Celeste. We are the editorial and interviewers for the Last Chat Update. As Mira said, that's our school newspaper. Yeah, Mira,
would you mind just quickly introducing yourself for the benefit of the viewers and for the camera?
I am Agnes Kaposi. I am a Briton. I'm a socialist. I'm an engineer. I'm a Jew. I'm a Holocaust survivor. That's me.
Thank you so much. And we'll just start with the questions now.
Okay, so to begin with, how did the Holocaust experience shape your perspective on humanity, tolerance, and the importance of promoting peace?
I don't know, because I don't know what I would be now if it hadn't been for my Holocaust experience. It would be an interesting question. How could you conduct a controlled experiment? Somebody going through one path of life and the same person going through a different path of life. Mm-hmm. What the Holocaust did to me, I don't know. I suspect it did, though, teach me what is important. What is important is human relationships more than wealth and possessions. In my life, I lost absolutely everything, so that I had literally nothing but what I stood up in. And it didn't destroy me. So you can recover from loss of possessions. Whether I would have been able to recover from loss of my family, I don't know. There are Holocaust survivors who were taken by humanitarian people from the danger of their own country to the safety of, for example, Britain, the Kindertransport people, and several of them, including some of my friends, were the only people left of their family. And so they grew up without the love and support of a family. They were in safety. Nobody wanted to murder them. They arrived in Britain before the killing in Europe really started. So on the one hand, they had an easier time than me. But on the other hand, they had a much harder time, because I was never without the love and support of my family. And the inspiration for me through the camps, I can tell you with confidence, came from my love, particularly of the young members, the little members, the little children in my family. I felt responsible for them, and I had to be strong for them, and that helped.
There's just some more.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very kind.
You mentioned in your presentation that the regime of a country doesn't change its people. Why and how do you think the Hungarian people, from your perspective, switched from fascism to communism so quickly?
Yes, this is a puzzle for me. I don't understand. But I'm not sure how many those were. There were quite a few who were prominent in one regime and prominent in the other, or acquiescent in one regime, and they were willing to agree without object with the other. I don't know, I don't understand. I do think, though, that it is very important for people to have some kind of a basis of their value system. And some of my friends use religion as the basis of their value system. They adopt, they accept their religion, some of them the religion they were born into, some of them religion into which they affiliate later in life, and the religion gives them some kind of a guidance as to what is right and what is wrong. In my own family, it was social conscience which gave the guiding principle, and I learned from my father that those who are stronger are responsible for those who are weaker, and what is right is what is fair in society.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that Hungary will ever accept the responsibility for the atrocities they committed during the war and after?
I have no idea. I really have no idea at all. And I'm often asked about the policies and conduct of the present Hungarian government. I don't live there. I don't know any more about it than you do. It just so happens that I speak the language. I love the language. I love the literature. I could quote Hungarian poetry. My house is full of examples of Hungarian folk art and Hungarian fine art. And I love Hungarian music. But otherwise, I don't live in the country. I hadn't lived there for the last 66 years. And I can't answer for the policies of the present government. I do know that many people suffer by the present policies of the Hungarian government, but it's not a country where I currently live or wish to live. I am a Briton.
And do you think that Hungary will ever accept the responsibility for the atrocities they committed during the war and after?
I have no idea. I really have no idea at all. And I'm often asked about the policies and conduct of the present Hungarian government. I don't live there. I don't know any more about it than you do. It just so happens that I speak the language. I love the language. I love the literature. I could quote Hungarian poetry. My house is full of examples of Hungarian folk art and Hungarian fine art. And I love Hungarian music. But otherwise, I don't live in the country. I hadn't lived there for the last 66 years. And I can't answer for the policies of the present government. I do know that many people suffer by the present policies of the Hungarian government, but it's not a country where I currently live or wish to live. I am a Briton.
And so for this country where you experienced so much hate, did Hungary still hold a special place in your heart nevertheless?
Well, Hungarian music does, and Hungarian poetry does, and literature. And let me, for a few moments, tell you about Hungarian folk art, because it is so extraordinary. It's not a large country, and Hungarian folk art, nevertheless, is regional. Every region has its own style. The patterns are different, the materials are different, the motives are different, and it is so rich and beautiful. I recognize Hungarian folk art and I rejoice in it. But yeah, I suppose in that sense it has, and also in various circumstances, I would come forth with quotations from Hungarian poetry. It's part of my cultural life, of course it is. But I was told, as long as I remember, I was told that I am not a Hungarian. Although I was a Hungarian citizen, I told you, Hungarian Jewish citizens were treated in murderous ways, and it's a miracle that I am alive, although I was a citizen of the country. So I am not a Hungarian.
Do you feel that the Holocaust brought Jewish people together, or in your experience, did it really divide the Jewish people?
Yeah, this is a very deep and difficult question. I'm not sure that it did either. I don't know, I was too small. I don't know what it was like before the Holocaust, how divided or otherwise the Jewish community might have been. My feeling is that it must have been quite divided, and I even write about this in my book, divided in terms of religious practice as well as economically divided. My own family was poor. We never had any possessions, nobody ever owned their home. We lived in rented accommodation. That accommodation was very small and tight. Income was very little. There was unemployment because, as I told you in my talk, my family were professional people, and young professional Jews were debarred from practicing in their profession, so we were very poor, and at the same time there were some very well-to-do Jews as well. Some of them we knew by name, we never came across them. So it was a divided enough society beforehand. It still remains, from what I see, a divided society, and an example is, for instance, the way in which Israeli society proves that there are Jews who think differently from each other. This is for me a painful thing. Not only Jews but others might have learned more from the experience of the Holocaust. They might behave more fairly towards each other, not only Jews but others as well. And unfortunately I don't see that there is greater tolerance among people since the war.
You described some of the Jewish families that were in the work camps with you as ruthless in your book. What did the camps teach you about how people respond in traumatic and high-stress situations in which they must fight to survive?
A very, very good question. I can only tell you how lucky I was that I was a member of a family which showed me how people can behave towards each other. In my own family, there was such loyalty towards each other, as well as loyalty and fairness towards other members of the community. My family showed me examples of how people can behave. I can say with confidence that there was nothing that I need to feel ashamed of about my own conduct during those times, or about the conduct of any member of my family. And I say this with pride. I am proud of the fact that my family conducted themselves in extreme circumstances, in a dignified manner, in a fair way, and not everybody. And there were some Jews who stole, for example, from each other. There were some Jews who took advantage of each other. And it's a matter of pain and regret, because I think extreme circumstances should create support among people, and not always.
How do you think your relationship with Judaism and your religious or cultural identity has changed over your life, especially after the events of the Holocaust, and especially since you mentioned that you're non-religious?
This question is often asked me, and I have a very brief and not very informative answer. Religion didn't play a part in my life before the Holocaust. It didn't play a part in my life during the Holocaust, and it doesn't play much in my life currently. I do nowadays, in the last about 3 years, give lots of talks to schools, to communities, among them Jewish communities and Jewish schools, and many of them, more of them, non-Jewish communities. And yeah, I don't. I always try to study the audience before I compose my talk. That is because I'm an educator. So I try to learn what people are interested in, how they go about their business. That gives me a chance of presenting my story in a way that might resonate with people. So in that way, I learn about the way a Catholic school goes around about its own business, or an international school such as yours, or the cabinet office of the Prime Minister, or the Royal Air Force, which are among the places where I had given, or an American university, or a Canadian university, or a German university. I try to learn about the way in which people think, and I am not changing the fact. I am trying to be as truthful as I can, but I can change the emphasis, or I can uncover from a very rich tapestry of Holocaust experience those things that would be of interest to a particular audience. But it did not change my attitude towards the Jewish religion. I respect the Jewish religion the same as I respect other people's religions.
And after liberation, what were your immediate thoughts and emotions, and how did you begin to rebuild your life when you came back to Hungary?
Well, here is another difficult question. When liberation came, by then we were walking skeletons. We were so weak. After liberation, I was ill for a number of days to the point of losing consciousness. I had very high fever. I lost track of time during this illness. Nobody ever figured out what the matter was, and in due course I recovered. That was an option. But when you are in a state such as we were in, you don't plan ahead. You are engaged in living from almost one minute to the other. You have to survive. You have to find enough strength to take the next step, to think the next thought. You don't plan ahead. We did not even consider consciously what to do. It was a natural thing to go back to our homeland because we expected to meet up with our family, with the men who had been taken out of our family and put into the Hungarian army. We didn't know that they were dead. We thought that we might just pick up our life where we left off. We didn't know that we shall never have our home back. So we didn't plan. We just lived from one moment to the next. The only thing, once we were back in Hungary, which was a guiding principle, was education. I had to go to school. I had to catch up with 2.5 years of schooling. From March of the previous year until May the next year, I lost 2 halves of the school year, and I had to take an examination at the end of the school year, 6 weeks from now. Otherwise I would be losing a year. My goodness, no. That I had to do. And I worked. And I am a worker now.
Impressive. And final question, do you feel that your forgiveness, you talked about it in your talk, do you feel that it is a lifelong process?
What is a lifelong process?
Forgiveness.
Oh, well, that's very, very difficult. Those who were the perpetrators are dead now. I don't know how I would feel if suddenly in front of me there would be that young Ukrainian who beat me when I was 11 years old. He beat me with his belt because he was cutting the wheat, and I was to create out of them bundles, and I was not fast enough, and he was upset that we were not making as much progress as the next pair of people cutting and making the work, and he thought that it was his job to beat me with his belt, and he did. And he was towering over me, and he must have been at least 18 years old, and I was 11, and he beat me. Now, if he would be in front of me now, would I forgive him? But if he would be in front of me, then he would be 95 years old. He might be frail by now, he might be sick. I can't reconstruct that situation. At that point, I don't know what I would have done had I the power to beat him back. But I hadn't. I was small and 11 years old. Do you see, it's very difficult to even comprehend the notion of forgiveness from a time distance such as this. But when I meet up with young Germans, I went to a school, I mentioned this to you, I went to a school where there were 16-year-olds in Nuremberg. Now, Nuremberg is a very, very difficult place. Nuremberg is a city in Germany where they made up the racist laws in the first instance. That was the place where Hitler held his relays of 1 million people, telling them what to do. Nuremberg was the place where the Nuremberg trials were held. And it's a small city, I would imagine similar size to Geneva where you live. And these 16-year-olds live in that city, and they walk about among monuments which are telling them about the Nazi past of their own city. And they suffer as a consequence. They feel responsible. They daren't ask too many questions from members of their own family for fear of what they might discover. And they come and they listen to me and I give them a talk. And they are beautiful and eager, like you are. And when I look at them, I can only see young, innocent, eager people wanting to learn. How can I get as far as forgiving? They are not guilty. So someone not guilty I can't forgive, because there is nothing to forgive. They are not guilty. So do you understand, those who are my contemporaries or older, they are either already dead or would be as good as dead, and they are not asking for forgiveness. Those who are asking for forgiveness are not guilty.
Thank you so much for your answers. They were truly fantastic, and I'm sure people are going to be really, really interested to watch this when the video comes out. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.